What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Office Hour Tangents. Of course, classes don't start for me for another 2 weeks, so I'm still on my summer break, so we can still call this Summer Hour Tangents or something like that. So no, I'm not coming straight from class right now, but just to recap the premise, usually I'm coming straight from class and I talk about the tangents that I may have been talking about in class that I couldn't expound upon. But it's a special episode today because I have a guest, and the tangent for this episode is going to be the first business that I and my business partner kind of founded when we graduated college. And I'm going to get into that, and we're just going to talk about it in a freestyle form. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage my business partner from back in the day. Currently, whenever we have any kind of business ventures, we call each other and we bounce ideas off each other, or we just kind of full on go at it. And she's a brilliant woman. She's from my hometown, Columbus, Ohio. She now resides in Africa. I'll let her talk about that a little bit. But no big introduction, but she's my other half as far as like I'm the creative, she's the business part. And we always make a good team because of that. So when I talk to my students, I always talk about when they're in college or in their young years, kind of meet people and try to meet people that fit the holes that you may have so y'all can form a cohesive team. So without further ado, welcome to the stage, my friend, Dickson. And I'll have like some applause. Yeah. So
what's poppin'?
Word. So you want to say anything before I get started on the UrbanStarr?
No, you said a lot. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be finally talking about this and talking about old memories, then which really laid the foundation for where we are today. Little did we know when we were in our early 20s that we were going to do something that really shaped our whole lives. So it's fun. I'm ready.
It did shape our whole lives.
Ready to see what you got.
Now where in the world are you now? Because you've traveled, you're well traveled.
Currently, yes. I've been to 35 countries. Let's see, 39 states.
Damn.
So I love to travel. Right now I'm sitting in my daughter's house in Columbus, Ohio. So
oh, word.
This is my daughter's house. She's 20 years old now. She was not even born when we were doing this. So, yeah.
That's the crazy thing. That is the crazy thing.
Uh-huh.
So,
yes.
So to get into it, we're going to be talking about the UrbanStarr today. So the UrbanStarr, and I'm wearing my shirt. This is from, we probably got these shirts printed like in 2001 or 2. And
yeah,
it was the first business that we worked on. And we didn't plan on it. It was unplanned. And just, I'm going to get right into the story, right? The story, I think we have differing stories a little bit, but it's good that she's here. So I was out at the club, right? And saw her at the club, and I haven't seen her in a while, maybe like a year or two, because I had graduated from Pitt in 1999. When did you graduate, O State?
2000.
So she had graduated a year.
Like 1 year under you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she had just graduated. I'm in these streets. She's in these streets. And I think we're both, and I can just speak for me, I didn't know, I was working at Nationwide Insurance as a designer, as a graphic designer. And they were teaching me all this web stuff because it's 2001. And that's when the dot-com boom was in like full blast. It kind of reminds me of what's going on now with AI, but that's another subject for another time. But it was in full blast, and I ran into Dawn at the club, and we started talking like, what you been doing, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, yo, I'm getting tired of people always asking me what's going on each weekend, like as far as like clubs and bars to go to. And then she was like, yeah, me too. And then we were like, let's do something about it. So we like set up a meeting, like come over to the crib. I came over her crib one night, like that week. And we literally put together a business plan. I would say Dawn put together a business plan on just like lined yellow legal paper. It seemed like a napkin. It seemed like a napkin business plan. And it was like in cursive. I think if I can remember it.
That's funny.
And then I just went home and just started working on the website. And then we like launched the business in probably like how long you think it took?
It wasn't long. I mean, it was longer because there was no Wix. Like everything back then had to be done by hand.
Oh yeah.
So you had to design everything from scratch, no template. You had to do all the coding from scratch. I was in school at DeVry at the time, studying information technology, so web development and just trying to understand what the World Wide Web was. But I think overall, shit, it wasn't long. You move quick.
I
That's
was
why I like
quick.
working with you. We don't BS. We get to it.
It was like
So
the
it wasn't
website
long. And then I got the money from my dad as our first investment, and we just
went.
started.
We just
Hmm.
started. It's like I would say I would put 3 months on it. I can't see myself working for more than
Yeah.
3 months on it. But everything was new because I was learning web design as I went. I didn't study that in undergrad. My undergraduate
Yeah.
degree, FYI, is architectural studies. So I was more fine arts, art theory. I was that guy. Like I had one graphic design class. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
I
I didn't know
remember
if
you
you
were
knew that.
teaching yourself Macromedia Suite, like Dreamweaver Fireworks freehand yourself. Like you were studying that on your own time after work. I do remember you taught yourself Flash and all that stuff. Like you were using these tools when, it was certainly not it was not popular. It was not common. Because remember, a lot of websites couldn't even handle Flash, um,
Right.
the speed. We were on the Ethernet. We were on hardwire internet back then. There was no Wi-Fi.
It's like
So
we're dating ourselves
dial
every
up.
time we every word we mutter is like dating us. Like there was no Wi-Fi.
I
There
know.
was no Wi-Fi.
But we still are hanging in there. So
But nah,
we're
like
pre-Wi-Fi, pre-social media. I remember when you called me like, Dawn, there's a new website called YouTube. It's dope. Like I said,
like
oh,
what? But nah, I remember
yeah,
nationwide,
they're making video.
our mandate in nationwide was for web pages was no one web page can be like more than I'm gonna throw out a number. It was kilobytes. It was something like 700 kilobytes, 800 kilobytes. It
Yeah,
wasn't even a megabyte. It was like everything
yeah,
you had on your page, images, graphics, text, code, had to be under a meg. So that's what we were working with. So anyway, I was teaching myself that. Quick story on that is that one graphic design class I had at Pitt changed my life. I took it. I didn't even know what graphic design was. I just thought it sounded cool. Took it, decided that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Not architectural studies, not computer science, which was my minor. It was that, and I went up to the teacher after class, after the 16-week class, like, "Yo, thanks for this class. It was amazing." Blah blah blah. He was just an adjunct. That's when I first found out what adjuncts were, and I was like, "Any advice?" Because there's no more graphic design classes, and he was like, "Learn Dreamweaver." That was his advice for me to go into the graphic design as a career. And he was like, learn Dreamweaver. Because he was like, graphic design, the way of that profession is going the way of the web. And you need to learn the web if you want to be in this profession. And
yeah,
that's when I went out and got the Macromedia Dreamweaver Bible. And then I started learning it. So that's that story. If you didn't know that, I don't know if you,
yeah.
yeah.
And while you were learning that, I'm like learning. Well, my degree undergrad was journalism and marketing, so it was like a really perfect match actually because I'm
It's
writing
perfect.
and marketing and you're coding and designing, and those are all the skills that we really needed to start the business. So it was just me and you were able to do everything ourselves because of the skills that we had were very transferable. But we were just so early in the web. Like we didn't know what we were doing. But
At
the
all.
thing about entrepreneurship is like we knew there was a problem we could solve. The problem was what's going on this weekend because I don't know if everybody listening knows how I used to be, but there was no text, there was no social media. If you want to find out what's going on, you literally had to get a flyer in your hand of going somewhere. Somebody had to tell you verbally,
Yep.
or there was a thing in the newspaper called the Weekender in our Columbus Dispatch, and every Friday you could get that Weekender or Thursday and see what's going on. But it was very limited because we were young at this point, 20, 21 year olds. These events were for the whole city in a predominantly white town. So the things that we wanted to do as young people weren't there. I mean, it was like a revolutionary, disruptive idea to put events online. And your just skill set. I mean, the things that you were able to do as far as putting the pictures online, putting the video online. So maybe you should just explain actually what UrbanStarr is
Word.
to them.
And before that, was the word disrupt being disruptor? It's so everybody uses that word now. It's like
Innovator
whack.
wasn't around.
Yeah.
Founder wasn't a word.
Disruptor?
Disrupt wasn't a word. Startup wasn't a word. It wasn't
Wow.
something that we ever heard. So, we were doing, Brandon was doing video and streaming video and music before YouTube. But we were in Columbus, Ohio. We weren't in Silicon Valley. So we didn't even know that what we were doing was so disruptive. If we were out on the West Coast, we probably would be Mark Zuckerberg and we would have a whole different life. But we were in Ohio and just using our skills as young Black kids.
Right.
Um,
So let's
it
get
was
right into it.
even thinking about it, it's like, damn, we were so far ahead of our time, and we didn't have mentors. Nobody nurtured us. Nobody was like, you guys are on to something.
Zero.
It
It
just
seemed
was
like more
us.
people was
It was
hating
just
than
us figuring
nurturing.
it out.
Seemed like more people was hating than
Yeah.
nurturing. I don't want to say we had a lot of haters. We
They
didn't.
didn't understand. My family used to say I had a Tommy job because they didn't know Tommy as in Martin. Like, Tommy, you ain't got no
You
job
ain't got no
because
job.
nobody understood the internet. They're like, oh, yeah, it's a fad. I remember people told me nobody's going to use their credit card online. You can't trust it. Nobody's ever going to online shop. This is like a scam, or this is a fad. Even my parents were like, what's this web? This is a fad.
Yeah.
So no, nobody really believed in what we were doing, but when we launched it, the numbers spoke for themselves. And this was before smartphones. This is before
Way
many
before
people
smart.
didn't
It
even
was
have
barely
personal
when
computers.
we barely had cell phones. Like we were still on
Yeah, we
flips and
barely had cell
razors.
phones.
Yeah, we barely have cell
Hmm.
phones. Like I had just got my first cell phone, like 2000,
It
something
was
like
like a
that.
desktop, but the cell
Yeah.
phones didn't have data, so you're not getting online on your cell phone. It
Nah.
still was a cell phone was used for talking on the phone. So if you wanted to get on a website, you were still literally going to a desktop connected to the Ethernet or dial-up,
And I got a
and we
story
was
for that
getting a
too,
100,000 hits on that,
which
which is
is
crazy.
insane, which is crazy. Anyway, so let me
It's
get right
crazy.
into it. The
Like,
Urban Star was we was like, hey, let's. I was like, I remember this is my how I remember the story. We was in the club and it's like, hey, let's do a website where it tells us where to go to kick it. That was it. Like, let's do a website. Like,
yeah.
I'm learning this new thing for websites, like, and how to build them. Like, let's do it so people can stop calling us to see what's going on, and we can just say go to the Urban Star. And it was like the
Yes.
opportunity. So it was like I saw an opportunity, and I was getting calls. Like everybody's home from school. And it's like, what's going on tonight? That was like everybody would call you and say, what's going on tonight? What's up with the night? What's going on tonight? And then people would just be on the horns, and then that's how you would organize.
Hmm.
So I was like, there was the opportunity to just
Hmm.
say, hey, go to this place. And so the Urban Star came because we had our meeting at Dawn's house with her legal pad. I wish she still had that legal pad. She probably did somewhere, but and
It's probably in one of my
it has
archives.
to be. And first we had to come up with a name. That was like the first thing. And it
Yeah.
was like, and I forgot our name because it had our name ideas. That's why I wish you had it. It had like all these different
I
ideas.
remember where it came from because we were like, okay,
It
we
was
don't want it
deep.
to be too excluding Black. We don't want it to be too Black because we want to include everybody because obviously this is Columbus, Ohio, and it's
Yep.
a majority white population. But we want to convey that it's for city people. So the word urban it means city. So we were like, okay, urban, city dweller. Brandon was always really good at like the brainstorming process, the process of like even getting down to the colors, using the words. So like we were just throwing out all kinds of words. What are words that we can use? I remember star came from Frederick Douglass paper, the North Star. I think it was the North Star.
Yep.
And it was back in that time they would use Frederick Douglass's newspaper to know like to report for like our community. So it was like our also tribute to like our being Black, but also it wasn't just a Black website. So like the Urban Star was like, okay, this is perfect because you follow the star, and the star gets you to where you're going. And through history, like even in the Bible, the star, they followed the star. So it's like, okay, you follow the star, and it's pointing you to what's going on in the city. And it just was a great name. I think the reason why we didn't call it UrbanStarr, why do we put the on it? And then
Because
the extra
somebody,
R. I don't remember that part.
because somebody owned already the domain name UrbanStarr, but they didn't do anything with it. It was just an empty website, but they wouldn't sell it. Well, at the
Right.
time, we didn't have no money to buy anything. We didn't even know we can buy it, but it was taken.
Yes.
So that was the only reason we put
Yes.
the UrbanStarr on it. And then
And the two R's.
I put two R's as a differentiator. That was basically it.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
graphic differentiator. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, the Urban
Because that
Star, the
whole
North
time we were
Star.
just buying up domains. The early time of domains where that was a big business, just buying up domains and holding them until somebody needed them. And that's what happened.
That's what
Urban
happened.
Star was taken, but
Right. So okay,
the
cool.
Urban Star,
The Urban Star, it was a dope name. It was a deep name, and nobody like.
yeah.
I wish we had it. We didn't do no interviews. Nobody asked us to come on no like ABC 6
We
News.
were
just to,
so far ahead of our time.
I was like, man, we're dope, but we didn't have
It's
it
like
like we
we
didn't know what
need.
we were doing,
I still be mad nobody offered me an honorary master's degree or PhD off this shit. Like I'm
bro.
still
This
like,
was that is a good
where
point.
is our honorary?
That's a good point because this was my school. Like I said, I studied computer science first. I was a computer science major, changed it to architectural studies because I couldn't see myself coding and just doing that for the rest of my life. Computer science minor. I graduated with architectural studies degree, but I went into graphic design. So all I tell my students, like all the software I use is on my own. I didn't learn Photoshop,
Yeah,
Illustrator, InDesign, Dreamweaver, Mac, anything at school. None of it except Adobe PageMaker. And I had to learn it on my
yeah,
own. So students out there, if you're watching this, there's no excuse for you to not to know any software nowadays. None. Like I'm a
none.
proponent of not teaching software so heavily in schools, in my opinion. Like have projects where you have to use it, but let the students use whatever software they want to use nowadays just to solve the problem the best way. Not
Yeah,
spend a whole 16 weeks learning Photoshop because you're going to learn 90% of Photoshop that you're never going to use. You're only going to use like
yeah,
10% of it in your workflow. So make something. My just a tangent. This is what I do these things when I say tangent. It's like I go off on. I feel myself going on a tangent, and so in post production I put like this graphic come up like tangent. So this is a tangent, and but with YouTube and everything, you can learn any software. You should be able to learn any software in a week or two. If you need 16
yes,
weeks to learn software, then this is not the profession for you. You need to learn it right now and get to going to solving the problem, not like put on your resume, I know Photoshop, but you don't know Photoshop. So anyway,
right.
tangent over. So let's show
Tangent.
I did get so what happens is the Urban Star back in the day, it was heavily in Flash because at the time I knew Flash I knew Flash better than I knew like HTML and JavaScript. And CSS
Yeah,
wasn't even a thing, like cascading style sheets to like style everything. So in order to get the
yeah,
website to look exactly how I wanted it because I'm a creative, I wanted thing about websites are it's hard to get a website to look exactly how you want it. So that's a skill set that certain designers and developers have where a designer can design something and the developer can make it look exactly how the designer designed it. A lot of times I'll design it, throw it to a developer, and they'll get it working, but it doesn't look anything like how I designed. Margins are off,
right.
colors are off, fonts are different. But in order to get it to look how I wanted it, I used Flash. So when Flash kind of went under in 2008 or 9, something like that, you can't see any of the archival any of the old Urban Star stuff. I had it on my website. If anybody wants to go check it out, brandancraft.com. Spell my name with an A, BrandanCraft.com. Click on Interaction Design, and you'll see the Urban Star kind of written up and links to the old websites. And I'm gonna tell you about a plugin. It's a plugin called Ruffle, and this is for you too, Dawn. Like, just put it in Chrome. I think it's on Safari too, but this is a free plugin. Look up. It's called Ruffle, and it allows you to see old Flash content. If you
Oh
go to like the
wow.
Wayback Machine or something, there's like old websites with Flash in it. It'll allow you to see
Yeah.
it. So I'm about to show the
Oh, that's
original
dope.
website. So I bet Dawn has not
Absolutely.
seen this in like 20 years.
We stopped doing it in like 2008.
In 2008. So that's the
So
last. Well, this is the first
like that
site.
was the end of it.
So here's the first site.
So this is
Hopefully
2001. This is 2001. So we're going back 22 years right now of internet history.
22 years. Look at
And
that.
keep in mind,
Let me
this
go to the
shit
homepage.
was fire. Like this was so next level. It on its design, like
Damn.
this was like a dope ass website. Now it looks like very basic, but you have to understand how next level this really was when it came out in 2001.
Right. So Ruffle, see how Ruffle does? So those are the two flash components I had in here. And when you have the plug-in, only thing I do is click the play and then it'll load the flash content. So I had, I had animation. This is
Fire.
2001, bro. I had
Yeah, they was
animation.
ready.
Look at the navigation though. Look at that.
Actually, this is 2003. This is the week of June 13th and 19th,
Yeah.
2003. So we had been around for 2 years by
Yeah.
this.
So this was, but
Yeah.
we first launched in 2001. So it was the same website for a couple years.
Yes.
And
Yes, it was.
I didn't really know how to do this kind of HTML and CSS, so I just made this in Flash. Like I would update this every week. We would update it every week for 7 years.
It really
Manually.
was you. It was you.
It was me, but
was you.
you was helping in the beginning.
It was you.
You was helping in the beginning.
Yeah, I would be doing the business stuff, but Brandon was like, you kept that site updated. You would do it after work. You would be doing it all night long.
All night.
So, I mean, the dedication, the time that it took to keep this site going, nothing was automated back then. People don't understand. There was no such thing as automation when it comes to the web. Everything was by hand. There was no templates. There was nothing to go off of, so I really now in today's time, I really appreciate and recognize the talent and skill it took for you to do this.
Man, good
Because
looking.
now everybody have a turnkey Wix template or something, and they don't have to even think about this stuff
At
anymore.
all. Like, yeah, this is the layout. And
This
it's
is so
very
cool. Oh, click
segmented.
to see the redesign. Oh wow.
Yeah, so we had started. I knew, so I'm gonna talk. We had two redesigns. So we had three versions of the site. But just look at some of these events: Arena District Summer Plaza Party. So I would put like what we call quote unquote urban events, but I would also put all events. Like I said, we were not trying to alienate anyone. Looking back on it, to be honest, from a business perspective, and you can chime in, it's like I almost feel like we should have maybe focused on a certain demographic. Like me learning now, like I teach my students, like you design to a very specific niche, and then everybody hopefully will come. But you always design for that niche. I was trying to design for everybody, a little bit for the
Yeah.
niche. I think we should have did it more for the niche, but we didn't know what we was doing. We didn't want to
We
seem
didn't
too
know. And
black.
also, the niche also didn't have access. I mean, you think about what demographic and percentage of the population even had computers. It's not like
Yeah,
now where everybody got a
yeah.
phone, can get online. So we were smart in just figuring it out. But at the end of the business, when we started having UrbanStarr members, the come kick it parties, we had really narrowed and found our community. But it took us some time to find our community. And it took us throwing a lot of things up against the wall, like doing the parties we did with Brad and them. So we were really doing parties with like generally the white demographic for a minute.
We were.
We were just figuring things out, doing things on campus, doing things, with the older crowds. And we found our community. And it was social media,
It
in a
was so.
sense, it
I'm
was
gonna get
social
there.
media
See,
before.
I'm gonna get yes,
Yeah.
no doubt. No doubt. No, so look, celebrity basketball game. We had this celebrity. So anyway, that was a big event. Like that, we had Biz Markie. So I'm about to show that in a minute. See Biz Markie. So I will put a different
was very
photo up
dope.
here every week, and it would coincide with what was going on that week. Look at this little thing. You click that, and it says "Oh baby you." I don't know if I have music come out, but I just held down this little
It was
button.
music. You would have music every week. It
Every
would
week had
change. The
music.
song or the sound would change.
And so anyway, so I'm gonna bring you back real quick. I don't want to be looking at that screen all the time. But so that was the original site. And as it was going, like I said, it was that site for a couple years. And
Yeah.
we just wanted to post the events, but quickly it became like we were throwing events. We weren't like the party promoters that were like having an event every week, but we had partnerships with clubs. And then also we started like doing our own events, like that celebrity basketball game with Biz Markie, or the
Yep.
set. Remember the set? And the wife,
Yes.
the beater
That's
party.
because we had people started to really use the Urban Star. It took off. And the way that it took off was, the marketing that I put together with Aquila.
Yep.
We built our team. I have a picture of our team actually. And we had a marketing strategy. And what it was going out with a street team. So we had our, nice looking girls, because we know nice looking girls always attract. And Brandon, the t-shirt that he has on right now, we would cut it up, put designs to it, change it around, baby tees, and then we would go out to events with clipboards. And we would try to send 5 to 10 girls out to events with clipboards in their hand, writing down names and email addresses. Do you want to know what's going on? Give me your email. And we ended up accumulating about 12 to 13,000 email addresses, which positioned us to be the largest email database in the city. So then we became a media outlet because we had a reach that nobody else had, because this is before, spam. This is before, I mean, we were doing email blasts every week, that was my job. Before there was any email management system, I was copy and pasting BCC and AOL before Topica came out. So we were just in the very early days of also online marketing, but that's how we built it. Very grassroots. Handing out flyers. Brandon designed some very nice cards. You know what's going on, go to this website. We had a street team out at all the hottest events, branding. So it really like guerrilla grassroots, which I still am a proponent of. I still think it's one of the best things to this day. And I think actually now, 20 years later, people are getting back to that again. Grassroots, hand-to-hand marketing, because now online is so saturated with spam and scams. And so
Yep.
now it's like we're back to where we started, and having this skill set that we have to build something organically using grassroots guerrilla marketing is like it's a great skill. But that's how we built it. We were getting like 100,000 at our peak, over 100,000 unique visits or hits a month.
And you were looking at those stats, like
That's
you were looking at those stats weekly, like who was doing that? Like we were
every
looking at
week.
views. I had to learn about what's the difference between a view and a hit and a visit. It was
Yeah.
like all different, and then
Unique
like,
visits, unique hits, and that's how we were selling advertisements. So we started to generate money, and it was from selling ads on the site or people paying to post their events, and it became profitable. And it was so early that even we had to show the value of online marketing. It was so new. What's the
yeah,
value of putting stuff online? But people realized it after a while, because it came to the point where anybody that came in town with a concert, a play, a comedy show, an event, they're contacting UrbanStarr, giving us tickets,
yeah,
having us promote it. We're partnering with the radio, partnering with Convention and Visitors Bureau. So we became a media outlet. So it went from like, hey, what's going on, to like, we are a very recognized and respected digital media outlet in Central Ohio
yep.
by accident.
By
By
accident,
purpose, but we just didn't know, because we didn't know we didn't know what it was gonna be. We were just
it got to the point where,
doing it.
because Google, Google was still new. It got to the point where you would just, okay, you go into a city, you would just Google that city, and it got to the point where the Urban
Yeah.
Stars started popping up on the search, and they were like, "What's this?" Then they would reach
Yeah.
out to you probably, or just call our number, and like I said, we didn't know what we were doing, so we was like doing it. So I wanted to show this real quick. Guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see that, but you probably can't, but that's cool. The original Urban Star pen. We had the Urban Star marketing on pens. Like we were detailed. We were very detail oriented at that point. Pens.
Yes.
Before we get to the photos, because really what happened is the photos became the star of the Urban Star show. But I think this is Aquila's. I'm not sure.
Let me
But it was
see.
just this.
I
It
can't
was.
even see it. Oh wow, turn it around.
Oh yeah,
Let
you
me
can't see it.
I
There you
can't
go.
see it. Oh wow, that looks like it was mine, with the beads and the knots.
The
Like, yeah,
beads.
like
Look at that.
the sexy street team. We had them out there.
This was a top.
We had
This
them
was a
out there.
top. This is the towel. But we was out
Needless
there.
to say, if someone come up to you with that on, they're gonna give them your email address. We just want that email address. So yes, those are
Yup,
you
see,
have the pins.
I have the pens. I had the clipboards for a minute.
Dang.
I had the clipboards for a
This
minute.
is some museum type stuff. Like they were. This is
So
crazy.
so that was the first iteration. We had the first iteration of the website because the business it turned into a media business, like you said, but it was still like the website was like the base of it. So,
Hmm.
and that was my baby. So it was cool. It was a dope situation. It's probably the dopest situation I've been in as far as like starting a business. Just like Dawn,
Yes.
I've started about 3 or 4 businesses, but she allowed me, because of her skill set, she allowed me to just do me, and she trusted me to do me. She didn't question it, and I didn't question her. It's like she did the marketing and the business stuff, and I did the design and branding stuff, and it was just like perfect pairing.
Yeah.
So anybody out there, any students out there, anybody watching, if you're a creative, find a business person. If you're in school, go to the business school. Befriend somebody in the business school that's like majoring in marketing and advertising or something like that. Like y'all need to team up. Same thing with if you're in business school. Go find a creative that you like, that you get along with, because you're gonna have ideas that you're
Yes.
not going to be able to pull off without a creative, and the creative is going to have ideas that they're not going to be
Exactly.
able to pull off without the business. And it's hard to do both. It's so hard because
Yes.
when you do both, so for instance, for me, I have an idea. Then I'm like, okay, let's do a business plan. I could write a business plan. I'll write like a 17-page business plan. But after that, after all that research and writing, I don't even want to do it anymore as a
Hmm.
creative. I'm like,
Exactly.
all the motivation is gone. Like I just like to do it. Like come to me, Dawn to come to me like the first Flat Out of Hills. Like that might be another episode, but her next business venture was Flat Out of Hills. She called me up. She's like, I need a website and a logo. I'm like, cool. And I just did it. And she trusted me because we've
Yeah.
worked before. She didn't have to go and micromanage it. Right. So
Yes. And I know your process. Like it's so scientific. It's not just like throwing something on paper. Like the way that you ideate and the way that the process you have, that when you come up with like a brand, colors, it was even from the beginning, it was always so scientific. Like I still have the board of the original logo sketches for like the process you went through for Flat Out of
flat out.
Heels. And it's just your process was always so thorough. And so
Word.
every business that I've started, actually, you've done the logo. Every one of them up until,
Set Popcom.
Bougie Nomad, Nia Studio, the only Popcom redesign. You did the first Popcom, didn't you? Solutions vending, or you didn't do the first logo?
No, that was the first one.
But I know Popcom, I did that for Techstars, but like all the other ones, you did the restaurant, the yoga studio, the Bougie Nomad, Flat Out, D1 Consulting, because your process, it just makes sense. What colors do we use? What are we trying to convey? What's the feeling? And I learned the importance of design from you and how critical it is to the business. People would just go get a cheap logo done or just get whatever done. And Brandon taught me, like, go ahead and invest that money in design because it's so much more than just pulling up somebody's throwing a graphic. It there's so much more that goes into it. The feelings, the emotions, the colors.
Yeah.
So that's, I learned a lot from you that has carried me through all of my businesses as well.
Word. And that's
So
why I
that's
always tell
just,
people
but you've
like
been thorough. Most people are not that thorough.
they're not thorough. They're not because my background is not graphic design or art. I think no, not graphic design. I think that's what makes me a very unique creative. I
Yeah.
don't even like using the word design anymore. Like I just feel like I'm a creative, but it's because I wasn't taught. I didn't have graphic design professors, if that makes sense. I didn't have all these graphic design professors to kind of teach me their style of graphic design and their look
Yeah.
at. So I kind of approach graphic design more so from a business standpoint, like right off the bat, and like what makes sense is instead of like what's beautiful. Because a lot of graphic designers they
Yeah.
started as artists, and then they figure out they can't make money being an artist, so they kind of trickle to graphic design. And that's not everybody, but a lot of them are. They kind of get their start in art,
Yeah.
and art is like art for art's sake. Everything's beautiful. Oh, put it on the wall, even though it sucks. No, graphic design isn't that.
Yeah.
Like, do not put it up if it sucks, or your business will go down.
Do not.
You will lose money with bad design. And it doesn't, who cares if it's beautiful? It just has to work. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, we can tangent all day on that. But I want to show the next iteration or the final iteration of the website to keep it moving. So
Yes.
Hopefully I have it still up.
And what became our claim to fame, which was the pictures.
Yep. Shoot, I should have had this better organized. Boom. Oh, that's me.
Let's
Site.
see.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is it.
Oh,
No,
wow.
that's
I
my
love that
site.
city thing.
Okay, here we go. Look at this. Look at this. Come on, Ruffle. So the Ruffle, the emulator, like I said, it's an emulator. If anybody knows anything about emulator, like I had 4 sections of this was Flash. The others was just HTML. My thing was I would rarely make an all Flash site. I would make a site with Flash and HTML in it, so you really couldn't tell what was Flash and what was not. So,
And that was your little musing. You're on the side. So every week, Brandan would write this kind
random
of caption.
musings.
So it says, phew, July was certainly a busy month. We're chilling this week. That does not mean we're staying in the crib, just not writing too much this go round. See you at the fair. Oh, wow. The photos of the after party. Those are the things. Like, I think our traffic really were big because of the photos, because keep in mind, there was no Instagram. There was no place to see pictures. If you got a picture taken when you were out, you got it printed out on a backdrop. So, like, we were in the backdrop era.
Yep.
So it was like, it wasn't even any camera phones yet. So people look to the UrbanStarr to like get pictures from when they were out.
Yep.
And that became our thing.
So real quick, I'm going to go back to this one. I forgot to. So I got this working this morning because literally all my backups for this stuff were on CDs. And I'm like, I don't have a CD player anywhere. So I had to find a CD player, get it on a jump drive, blah, 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 get it. But look, watch this, Dawn. Look at these photos. This is our first website, how I would post photos. Like, look at these events.
Wow.
Look at you and Manny Fresh.
Hey, 2002.
2002, bro. Like, this, I mean, people would come, like, I was just putting these photos up because.
Out there, though.
Huh?
I said we were out there. That's me and Baby. Click on that. Oh my
shit.
God.
Yeah.
See, that's the event we did with them at Black and Blue. That was when we like ventured into 2002.
This is an event we threw at the hockey
ventured
arena.
into-
No, the Black and Blue. It was at the hockey arena.
Yeah.
Where the Blue Jackets played.
Yes, because we partnered with those guys.
What was that thing at the big? Oh, that's the Big Easy.
Where was it at with the Black and Blue?
That's the Big Easy. The Black and Blue.
Yeah, I guess page 2.
Snaps and Taps. Black and Blue. Old State, Michigan.
It's your grandfather.
That's my sister.
Look at Angie.
Like, yeah, it's like if you go through these, this works now, Dawn. So if you get that plug in.
Oh, there it is, Black and Blue. Let's click on the Black and Blue.
And I didn't even have a way to get through these like one by one. It was like a hub and spoke method. Hub and spoke method of web design is have a home page or have a central location. You go and then you got to come back to the home page to do anything. This was like a hub and spoke photo gallery before photo galleries were photo galleries.
Jamie.
Let me see you. And I always just tried to take pictures of beautiful people. So.
Yes.
But if you see.
I want to go through these pictures.
Yeah, so we're not going to have time to go through all of these pictures. Here's you and your moms.
No, that's my mom.
Yeah. Like we was out here. I was literally on these streets. I won't say on these streets. That sounds crazy. I was in these clubs. Sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday every week. But I was working. I was taking all these pictures. I was the photo guy. Even though I was like owner of the site.
Ayana.
I turned into the photo guy.
That's before we made Smiley a celebrity.
Yeah.
Is that April?
So anyway, these pictures are available.
Cito, I got to send him that picture.
But what happened? So what happened is, so let me go to the redesign. This is our final version. So this is what I want to get into when we're really talking our shit. Excuse my language. We made an app. This was an app. Like this was an app. It was a multifunctional app without even knowing it. And the reason why I knew it was an app.
Become an UrbanStarr. Wow.
Become an UrbanStarr. Like we had, so the formatting's off because of the emulation, but we had the events. That was like the base. That's how it started. So you saw the original. Everything was really event based. We have photos. Oh, let me go back here again. And we had stuff like information about Columbus. This is how we wanted to be. We wanted to be like this resource for the whole city. And if you go to the homepage and you recognize what original homepage used to say, the UrbanStarr Columbus. And the thought we was going to have like the UrbanStarr Cincinnati, the UrbanStarr Cleveland, the UrbanStarr Los Angeles, the UrbanStarr whatever. It never got to that point, but that was always the goal.
If we knew anything about scaling, fundraising, venture capital, like this business.
It could be brought. We could be.
If we were some white men, we would have been Mark Zuckerberg before Mark Zuckerberg.
So you come back to this one.
Period.
It was an event space. This is when I knew this was an app. I'm gonna get right to there. When I knew this was an app, before I even knew what apps were, and this is probably this is probably the last week that I posted it before I took it down. Noticed that we had events in the venues and restaurants and all that stuff, but the most popular page was definitely photos. I would look at the views every week, and it would be like the turnover rate on the homepage would be like 0.5 seconds. You can see that, but it would be like everybody would go on the photos page and spend like at least 2 minutes on it, which is a long time for web standards. And I would find out like that's the main thing they're doing, so I leaned into it. But we had a video, so it won't work now, but yeah, I'm sure it won't work now.
Anita the Fabulous
D. And it was video, but I had to put video on it. The way I got music and video on the site, I had to pay extra for a media server, for a streaming server. So it was an extra, I don't know the number, but it was probably like something like $70 a month just to be able to play like 3 minutes of video. Like that's how much it costs.
It became more automated. What's that? Does that button post events still work? People could send events to us.
Nah, none of this stuff will work.
To become so popular that we can no longer figure everything out. So you started adding more features as we learned. You started adding more things to make it easier. Plus, it's like we have been doing this for 4 years at this point, or 5 years at this point. So we know what people are interested in. So becoming an UrbanStarr, that means they would get, like, they be on our email list, but also they had a membership. So we have like members only events, posting events where they could submit events. Urban Scene was when we would go out with a video. So this is streaming video before YouTube, very revolutionary. And then the streaming music player. So playing online music. So all these things were just so ahead of their time.
Oh yeah, in the lab.
Sometimes being too early to the party is actually, it's not the best because you're so early that they're not even
and then
ready
the others
or appreciative of what happened.
And the others that follow you, they benefit from your struggles. And I don't mind that. I've never minded that either because he has some. I always thought somebody would come along and kind of replace us as far as they just had more infrastructure and money, but never did. There was a couple that tried, and they just I think they just thought it was like, since we were doing it, anybody can do it. And I think they tried, but they never. It never got good. Like it never got good. It was just like a place to go to see events. Because when they came out, Facebook had came out. Facebook was the first sign I was like, okay, our days are numbered if we don't innovate.
Yeah. They had the Facebook events. Yeah. Like social media changed things. Facebook specifically, because even when Black Planet, that didn't really affect us. MySpace didn't really affect us. It was Facebook because they started implementing all those things into one.
Yep.
And people could post events into their community. But
and I would go.
We would have kept going. I just think go ahead.
No, I'm saying the way I would get the events and stuff in there, you remember like going to get the weekend papers every week. I would have to be in these streets every week because I would go and gather flyers from every club, from every car. They stick the flyers in your windshield. I would get flyers, and I was like, for 7 years, I was the guy like, and it was a curated. So after a while, people knew if it was on the UrbanStarr, they could trust the event. Because it's like, I wouldn't put
And that's because we would go out, Akila and I, on the business side with our marketing packet and our numbers, and I would run how many sites and how many hits and visits, and Akila and I will go out and sell, the space. So right here, you see City Barbecue on here. You see Color Purple advertisement on here. You see HBCU Connect. These were all our partnerships that we were able to secure because of, the traffic coming to the site. It was a valuable thing.
Right. And it's in the lab. This is Crate Digger. So those of you that know DJ Crate Digger, I used to have Crate Digger. Crate Digger would do a mix, an hour-long mix every week. Every week he would send me an hour-long mix. So I have like, I don't know, I probably have 50 or more of his in the mixes from back in the day.
Very dope.
And I have those CDs. So you can click on this, hear the music. You can click on this, see the video. This was actually from London. I was streaming this from London, England at the time because I went there for a project. But we had music reviews. And what happened? So get back. This is why I knew it was an app before I knew apps was apps. And before we knew anything about responsive design and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I was out with Tony Anderson, and we was at the Brownstone, right? And we had just did our Brownstone thing. It was still early, and we were just out, like everybody, just out on the sidewalk, like, what are we gonna do next? I don't know what's open. Because our clubs a lot of times weren't the clubs that played hip hop music. A lot of times they only played hip hop music like on Sunday nights or Thursday nights, but the rest of the week it was something else. So we didn't like just rolling up somewhere and they're like, oh, they're playing country music today. So I was like, oh, if we can get to a computer, we can see what's going on because I can go on, because I don't memorize everything I put on the site. So I was like, we can go on the UrbanStarr if we can get to a computer. And Tony, he was visiting from Philly at the time. He was working with the Roots at the time, I think. And Tony whipped out his sidekick. And, whipped out that screen. So all the old heads remember the sidekicks. They were like the dopest phones. They were in the music videos.
Yes.
He whipped out that screen on the top and he pulled up the UrbanStarr. And I remember looking at it like in amazement, like, oh, if he's doing it, then there's more people. And I knew it wasn't a lot of people, but it was like enough people. Like, we need to stay on the cusp of technology. So I knew. Yeah. So it was our second version. It wasn't this version. It was our second version. I knew I had to redesign it to look better on these smaller screens.
On a mobile. You were so ahead of your time with that too, with your thinking process.
And for thumbs,
a long time for websites to be more compatible with mobile. If you remember, it took a damn near decade for people to redesign their sites to be adaptable on mobile. It was very different, a mobile version and a desktop version. And you were doing that early.
It was just crazy. And it was just like, that was when I knew it was an app. Like, we created an app and didn't even know it. And this was before the iPhone came out. This is before a smartphone came out. So, reminiscing, we're on the reminiscing train. But,
it's just still to this day, it's like I'm proud of what we did, but at the same time, it's like, damn, we did not get our flowers. They did not. It's like
this how we got our flowers
for being pioneers in the country, pioneers in America on this.
At least in
technology
Columbus.
And yeah,
Columbus.
There was no other site in America. Remember, we seen like 2 other websites in the whole country that was even doing events. Social Step and one other one. We were literally in the top, I would say 5 in America to do this.
Flow Urban Nightlife, I think, in DC, because I knew him, Al Flowers.
Social Step was over there. And then ATL Pics. And that was like a big, all they did was go out and take pictures and post them. And that was a big thing. But that was after us as well. That was after us.
We were trendsetters as far as like this is how I always looked at it. Like, we set the trend, we put it out there, and people was able to consume it. But I think people consumed it like, oh, it's just another tool for me. They didn't look at it like, this is amazing. And I attributed it to us, like the dopeness, because it didn't come out like it's being new. It didn't look new. It didn't look like rough. We came out the bat looking.
It didn't look
official.
Like a black business.
Yeah, it didn't look like
balloons. It didn't look look like a. You see the balloon when I
I
did
saw
this?
it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't a black business.
It
It looked like a
looks
regular
like
business. Like
a business.
people thought you were rich. People thought that this was my only job. That people thought we were like making like high salaries because we had to be out. Like I knew I had to be out. Like it kept me out, so it means I had to like have the wardrobe to match because I couldn't wear the same shit over and over every week. I had to be out here. You were out here.
Yeah.
You know, it just looked like we were out here for real, like not out here struggling. And I think it really,
Yeah.
I think we were trendsetters, and yeah, the flowers as far as accolades and trophies and stuff, whatever. But I know everything professionally I've gotten since then has been because of the Urban Star. Like I would give a little bit to the fact that I have a degree from Pitt. That opens the door, right? And you had a degree from Ohio State, but like when we were able to put on our resumes or whatever, like we started a business when we were like 21.
CEOs. We were CEOs.
We were CEOs,
yes.
and it ran for 7 years. Like it wasn't a startup and it's failed. Like we ran that thing for 7
And
years.
it didn't fail. We just stopped.
It didn't
doing
fail.
because
Yeah, we
we were
just
ready
stopped.
to move on, and we didn't really know how to scale. Like that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't resources for us to know what do you do when you start a business? How do you grow it? We just didn't know. That information was not out there. And I think we both just wanted to do other things. I know I did because it opened up so many doors for me in my life and career and so much access and having a media outlet. We got access to so many things that we never would have gotten access to, into a network and a clientele base. So that's when I started doing consulting. And then, that's
Yeah.
when D1 Consulting came out of UrbanStarr. And I still have that business to this day. I'm still working under D1 Consulting to this very day.
Same thing here.
So you're right. Like it definitely launched our careers for sure.
The only thing, I went back to
Gave
school.
us credibility and respect.
Right. I went back
Yeah.
to school. So that's why, because I was just grinding on it because it was like my personal project. Like I was working at Nationwide Insurance. As you know, Nationwide Insurance is, because you worked in Nationwide Insurance too. And
Yeah. And
everything's
I quit.
blue.
Started doing full-time UrbanStarr.
yeah, it was dope. Working at Nationwide was dope. I would never shit on working at Nationwide. The first 3 years I worked there for 7 years. The first 3 years were dope. They sent me around the country to teach me web design, to teach me Flash, to teach me JavaScript. I was growing with the internet. Like, I graduated in 99, so I literally grown as a professional with the internet. Like, I'm still growing with the internet. Like, I'm listening to an audio book right now about AI just to get a deeper understanding of it. And Nationwide, it got to the point where now once it started maturing, the internet, and then they had the .com, what do you call it? So we had the boom, the bust, the .com bust.
The boom and the bust.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a bubble, then it was a bust. Then it was just like, okay, make everything blue. Make every web page very, very, very small. Like, make everything just kind of like as boring as possible, but try to keep it interesting and keep every web page under a meg. And it was just like, oh my God. So I was like, going to work was like, ugh. But UrbanStarr kept me sane because it was my other thing. It wasn't my main thing. So, but I went back to school just to be a better entrepreneur, actually. I didn't go back to school to start teaching. I just started teaching to help pay for school, and then found out that I was pretty good at it. But I went to be a better entrepreneur because I actually went back to school so I can either make UrbanStarr bigger and better, or we both have entrepreneurial endeavors to tackle, and I just want to be a better business guy. But it was just hard to kind of do the UrbanStarr and then like write a thesis. That's why we had to close it down. But I just wanted to point out this $5,000 for sentimental value. That's how I felt about it. Like,
crazy for that.
I was
Yes.
like, I think I remember like, they can buy everything, but they can't buy the name. It's almost like the daddy came in that name. I forgot that movie from when Ike Turner was like, my daddy that name got my daddy's blood on it. Like, that's how I felt about the UrbanStarr. Like, it's like they can take everything else, but it can't be blue. It can't be the UrbanStarr.
16,000 average hits.
We were rocking. Like,
That's amazing.
I felt like if we sold it for cheap,
Rocking.
it would cheapen what we did. So you were talking about the photos real quick. I just want to bring up the photos one last time because we didn't go through these photos. I think I got these photos. I worked hard on making this site work a little bit. It's hard to make this whole site work a lot because at this point we had got into ASP. Like I got with a developer that I had met at Nationwide, and he actually worked with me for this third iteration to automate a lot of stuff. So it wasn't to the third version where I we had a database. I was able to automate things. Shout out to Troy Plant. If you happen to see that, he was Green Fox Solutions down here about him. And he made me sad because he moved to California. He got his big job somewhere over there, I think. And he's like, I can't help you anymore. But that was my partner. So I was like, I thought I had to triumph. And it was like me, Dawn, and Troy. Like, because that was the only thing I felt like we were missing was a database true developer guy. And I've always been looking for that guy. So if you're watching, I'm always looking for that guy. Like that guy that could take my Figma designs and it could be developed and it'll look exactly my designs. Designers and creatives are always looking for that if they're working in interaction design. A developer that can translate it pixel for pixel. But let me see if these photos work.
Because I want to see the pictures.
I think I got to manually put it in.
I have CDs full of pictures too.
Bro.
In my archive stuff.
Yep. So on this photos page, I stepped my game up. Like I think I put this over here. This was ad space. So when I did the redesigns, we started getting more into like, okay, we need to leave space for like ads. So Dawn would put together this PDF to send to people, and it's like, okay, this on the left side it costs this much, on the top it costs this much, on the bottom, and it was all these ad spaces. Like we were doing this was 2003, 2004 when we was getting into that space. So let me get to. But look how it's organized though. Like.
It looks great. I want to see this.
Which one you want to see? We can, give me three you want to see.
Gosh, there's
Taste,
so much.
Soul, the Ursula Rucker concert, J. Ross. Choosy. Remember that?
Bunnies and Bottles was Kanata's birthday party. Choosy was the New Year's Eve party that I put together when I started doing consulting and event design and like really using my UrbanStarr connect.
And it was it was a New Year's. That's right. We spent New Year's
at Cove. I mean, we were doing
at the Cove.
I was redesigning spaces. I turned it into an Asian New Year's.
You did, and it was super dope.
That. I mean, the whole Cove got totally redone.
And you notice one thing about these pictures? I was taking all these pictures, and I'm blowing my own horn. I was taking all these pictures. I'm in none of them because there was selfies wasn't a thing. If you think about the historically speaking. Selfies weren't a thing.
Smiley in these yet, or Smiley wasn't even there yet?
This is me.
The photographer, but
Smiley's probably like the last year or two. But I was taking all these pictures, and a selfie wasn't a thing. Like, hey, get in the picture with me. Like it was like I was just taking pictures of people.
Let me see. Click on those two girls in their outfits. Yes, look at them. I had them dressed like Asians, the waitresses, and their hair. Wow.
In the club.
They wasn't doing that in Columbus. I'm sorry.
Hell no. We were ahead of our time.
So far.
The stuff that still did well in Columbus.
Go to the bottles and bunnies and bottles. Go to the bunnies and bottles. That's another theme party. That was his birthday.
Oh, that was Kanata's birthday.
That's crazy. Look at me. Wow.
Old friends. So if you get Ruffle, y'all can go experience these photos if you want. But
I want to experience the photos. I want to scroll through them. Wow.
I'm trying to just find a picture of me, man. Like, what does it look like? I didn't. People thought I just worked for the UrbanStarr. Like, people really thought I just worked.
They knew you was UrbanStarr.
No, they didn't. People like, oh, you work for the Urbans? No, they would say, you work for Dawn? I'm like, no, I don't work for them.
No.
They would say that often. Remember how you would get in the club and I wouldn't? Remember you would get in the club and I wouldn't?
That's crazy.
You would get in the club, you and your girls, and I'll be outside waiting for y'all to get me in. Like, oh, the other half of the UrbanStarr is outside. Like, who?
Wow, look at L Sharp and Rich.
Like, this is history, bro.
It is. It really is. Wow.
And I think, so, yeah,
These people are, this is like 20 years ago almost.
Well, boy, now we just reminiscing. Remember Grill 27? They got rid of Grill 27.
Let me see.
That
was Eddie George Grill.
Oh, yeah, they put it in the airport for a minute. Damn, it got to the point where you were really stepping your game up as far as like event planning.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we weren't throwing events often. It was like we would have maybe like 4 events a year. that we threw.
That launched my career because then I went to Atlanta and started really doing it big.
Because I never liked that part of it. Like, that was you. I'll do the flyers, I'll do the design. But you, like that promotion, and
Wow.
that
It was
looked
a
like a fun
vibe.
party.
You see, notice this though on the dancing picture.
Yeah,
People are vibing. There are no cell phones in hands, and ain't no camera phones out.
right,
There's
right.
no phones in hand.
There's no.
You're not gonna find a picture today of an event where there's no phones in hand. You're not
Right.
gonna find one.
So what happened was people would
Because
get.
back then,
I would travel around.
Yeah.
I would go to the club. So I would just this scene right here. So I would be like, I'd be like, yo, I had my little black camera, black camera. It was the size of a cell phone. I would be at the party. I wouldn't be out there like, that dude with the phone, the camera around his neck. That was Smiley. He was a
Yeah.
photographer. I was just a dude with the camera in my pocket. I had to get it small that had a good flash. And I would go up to people and I would say, hey, can I take y'all's picture? That's all I would say. Hey, can I take y'all's picture? And if they said why, I'd be like, hey, this is for the UrbanStarr website. I would give them a card.
they would be happy to be on it.
And they would be so happy to get on it. And then what would happen, you wouldn't know what it looked like because I wouldn't show them afterwards. If they wanted, I wouldn't even show them. Like, thanks. And I would keep moving. And what happens, they
Yeah.
would come try to see if they made the website. So it got to the
Yeah.
point where people would start coming up to me like, oh, I want to be on UrbanStarr. And they were like, make sure you put it up because last time you didn't put it up. And I was just telling them like, yo, I'm only putting up the best pictures. So it might be
Yeah.
like I'm only put up 20 pictures at the most, but I might take 60. So a lot of these people didn't get in it.
More.
So anyway,
Give me the link. Wow, these people are like literally. This is 20 years ago.
yeah.
I bet you we got to do an UrbanStarr like anniversary party. We got to do something to bring these people out because wow.
Documentary. So I can say that documentary. I'm gonna do a documentary.
Okay.
This way I'm teaching myself how to podcast by doing a podcast, and now I taught myself how to do web design by creating a website. I'm going to teach myself how to do documentaries by doing a documentary on
Well,
the
please,
UrbanStarr.
let's do this.
For real.
Let's do this.
And
Let's do this.
or a video
It'll be
essay.
profitable.
I've been kind of looking at these video essays nowadays. But anyway, now we're getting
Profitable for sure.
into the weeds. But look, I just like how it was organized. Like I'm big on organization.
good. I want to
And
see all these pictures, so I'm gonna have.
that's
to
what's
go back
happening.
to
It's like,
this.
look at these. And it's like, look at all
Look
these.
at them.
Look at all these beautiful people. Like I just
Look at
saw
all these-
them.
oh my
I just saw
God.
like all of them.
That's Sophia.
That's Sophia. Oh damn, I did that was Sophia. Sophia is in the first UrbanStarr picture ever. At
Really?
the Pulse, and she was a bartender. She's the first. I have picture
Wow.
number one. It's like it says DCP like 0001, and it's like Sophia and the bartenders at the Pulse.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow. These people are grown with kids and grandkids by now, probably.
so you see what I'm doing now? We just kind of want to go through photos. That's what people do now
That.
on their smartphones all day.
Yeah.
Death scrolling. Their only thing they're death scrolling is photos.
Scrolling.
It's just photos. It's
What if we
photos
did, like,
and
a throwback
videos.
UrbanStarr Instagram. Like, okay, let me be quiet. All right,
All right. Bro,
I give up.
we were rocking it. Oh, the last thing I wanted to share because it's just show and tell. Why not? So just replace it.
The flyers were so good.
Yeah, like these were 2001. This was before we probably even launched. And I was teaching myself how to do flyers. That's how I got into graphic design. A lot of people get into graphic design because they do flyers for their boys. And that was my introduction to graphic design, was doing flyers and
Yeah.
posters. And in another episode of Office Hour Tangents,
Your event source. That was a
Yeah.
good tagline. Your event source.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. And I'm going to show in another one of these episodes coming up, I found my first poster I ever designed at Pitt when I was when I had become an alpha. And I did a alpha poster.
Wow.
And it looked so terrible. But I got it laminated. I was so proud of it. I didn't know anything. And I want to compare it. And that was probably like 1997, 1998. And then how I grew from 98 to 2001 in 3 years is a big deal. So to anybody listening, like to bring it back home, any students listening, anybody else listening that's a creative and you want to kind of get into it, if you just do stuff, you just have to do it. Get off the tutorials. I don't say get off of them, but the tutorial is not going to teach you how to be a good designer. A YouTube video is not going to teach you how to be. You just have to do it. You have to like find a project, do it for free. Because as soon as you start doing it for money, whoever's paying you is going to want to tell you what to do. Like, no, say I'll do that for you, or do your own project, but then say, no money. That means you can do whatever you want and just learn and then spend as much time as you need on it and just learn anything you want to do dope and you don't know how to do it. Just learn how to do it real quick and then do it. That's the best way to learn this stuff, from my opinion. And the UrbanStarr was like the UrbanStarr was my grad school before I went to grad school. It really
Mine
was.
too.
Yep.
My business school, my MBA. That was my MBA. They
Like how many
give me one.
just really count, not even counting your heads, just think about all your like quote unquote failures. Things you thought would work and then didn't work. And then now you know what doesn't work.
Right.
A lot of people don't know what doesn't work because they just always want everything to be so perfect right off
They
the
don't
bat.
try anything. Yeah.
Just do it. Do it quickly. Like, do it quickly. See if it works. If it works, then do it better. If it doesn't work, cool. You didn't spend too much time on something that doesn't work. And now you have in your mental Rolodex all these things that don't work, which will make you a better whatever you're trying to be, because now it's best to know what won't work than to know all this stuff that works, because nothing really works unless you work it. That sounded smart. I didn't mean it to sound that smart, but that sounded smart. I don't even know what I said, so I'm gonna have to hit the. Nothing works without you working it. Ooh,
Yep.
that's a big deal, Brandon. Nothing works without you working it.
Facts. Big facts.
So I mean, you can work a turd out and you can make a turd rock.
You funny.
You can, like, you see it nowadays, like video games. I always talk about video games on this channel. A bad video game comes out terrible, and then they'll patch it, and then it becomes a good game. Like these social media networks come out, they're terrible, and then they keep working it, and eventually it may become good. Like some of them things I'm hoping it becomes good, like fan base, but you keep working it. Anyway, so we can easily go on forever. We can just do a whole episode on looking through photos. But I'm gonna wrap it up. Anything you want to close with?
Just like that was an epic time of life. I'm so grateful that we were able to do that. We were pioneers. Thank you for being my partner for all these years. But I just think that the lesson in all of this is just do it. Just start, and you can learn as you go. This is all the skills that we both have were not skills that we got from a formal education.
Right.
So there's value in a formal education, of course, but in this day and age, like, you can accomplish anything by just being a self-taught person and going out there and just doing it and learning from the lessons. So, yeah.
What so
Exciting,
since
and
the
I hope that
UrbanStarr,
we can keep it going.
my bad, and for the viewers, my bad. There's a little audio delay, so any kind of overlaps,
Yeah.
I apologize. But once we stop with the UrbanStarr, just off the top of your head, name the businesses that you started after the UrbanStarr.
D1 Consulting, which is still in business, and I still make money every day from it. So D1 Consulting was my business development, marketing, and event consulting company, which my resume was what I did with UrbanStarr. And so that helped me to grow a business that literally carries me to this day. Then in 2012, I think, 11, I did the Flat Out of Heels, rollable flats for women to wear when their feet hurt. Brandon did that with me. It's still in business. It's not out of business. So now I'm expanding it, moving it to Ghana, where I currently live in Ghana. Then I started Popcom, which was a vending machine company that turned into being a software company, venture-backed company, raised $7 million, grew that company, had big clients all over the world with that. Then I started small businesses like passion projects that, I started a vegan restaurant. Brandon did the branding for that, sold that. I started a yoga studio. I closed that when I moved to Africa. I started a RV, so like a recreational vehicle company called the Bougie Nomad. So I did that self-funded. I still have that. And then now I started a business in Ghana called Earthcraft Consulting. So now I'm working in construction and sustainable consulting for building homes and So, yeah, I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I quit my job at Nationwide, and that's the last job I really had back in
Word.
2000 and I think one or two. I've been an entrepreneur since then.
I can kind of say that I never
Yeah.
even thought about it like that, but Nationwide was the last real job I've had. Like since then, I've been an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, and then I started teaching. But yeah,
Yeah.
since the Urban Star, I
Yeah.
did remember I did athlete shirts. So when I graduated,
Yes.
I did Star 360. So that was my like consulting firm. That was my design business. And then I did athlete shirts. So that was the shirt business I had, which was dope, but I
It was
still
very
didn't know.
dope.
I went into a
But you
new
needed your
era.
business person.
Yeah.
You needed me, and I was gone.
I needed her bad,
But it
but
was a
that's all
great
right.
business.
But I learned a lot from it. It's still an IP I could get back on. Um, and then I did.
Yeah.
Then I have a lot of businesses that I like designed out and figment out and got it all working, and then just kind of like let it fizzle. That's just my
Yeah.
mo that I'm trying to get over. But yeah, the Urban Star was the catalyst of it all. The Urban Star is the reason why I'm teaching, because
Yeah.
what it turned into was I saw when I went back to grad school and I took a couple undergrad classes, and I saw how much I didn't know from without having a formal graphic design, undergrad degree.
Yep.
But I also saw what they didn't know because they haven't done anything, or they was getting taught
Right.
to a lot of times just to get a job, not to be an entrepreneur,
Yep.
not to like make your own things. And I think us creatives, we're the people that should be creating things, not just creating a logo for you, or creating a website for
Yeah.
you. Like, no, we should be creating entities. We should be creating IPs. We like call us, like call me when you start thinking about your idea, and let me help
Yeah.
you with your idea with some creative thinking, not just analytics and numbers. And then both of
Yeah.
those together will make it more successful. So I would see holes. So after that, I was
Definitely.
like, and then I was teaching like I was just a teaching assistant. My style, I think my style got a little more developed because it was just my own style. Nobody taught me how to do graphic design. It was just like, well, I was just doing it. So anyway, shouts out to the Urban Star. Anybody that
Oh,
remembers Urban
Urban
Star that's
Star.
watching, go in the comments, shout us out. Just
Please.
any
Please.
stories you may have, that would be dope. Because to be honest, what I was doing it was every Wednesday night, because I would launch. It would be refreshed every Thursday morning. I only missed one Thursday in 7 years because it fell on New Year's Eve, but I posted it that following Friday. But from my perspective, it was a very lonely kind of job that it turned into, because after I designed everything, now it was just like posting stuff every week and writing, and I would look at the views, and I would just get encompassed in the views, almost like how people get encompassed with their like favorites, like who hearted my comment, who's in my comments. I was looking at it like nobody's coming to this site. Like I didn't have any. I needed feedback, like yo, you're doing a good job, or it's still dope. It was just like it became like a job, and
Yeah.
but when I closed it, it was like a hard decision. 2007, I was just like, I shut it down. I think I put a message on there like, I'm shutting it down. Thanks for all the help, and I just shut it down like cold turkey, like back up. It was just gone.
Because your partner also left you. I was like, where was I? 2007. I was like in Atlanta
Yeah,
doing them parties and events and had a 3 year old. And it was just like a different,
and I was
we
writing a
didn't know
thesis.
how to scale. We did
Yeah,
not know how to scale. If I knew what I knew, if I knew then what I know now, we could have did this. We could have scaled it. We could have transitioned, put somebody else in your place so you didn't have to feel so overworked. I just didn't know. I knew how to build a business. I didn't know what to do with it after it was built.
that's what I
I
do
didn't
now.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
I know
didn't
how
know
to
how to scale it and exit it.
I know how to have the idea for the business and execute it. But once it's executed,
I know how to monetize it. But what do you
yeah,
do after, like I always say, what do you do when the business you start, you don't want to work there no more? And it's your company. If you quit, then the whole thing shut down. It's not like you have a job and it's like, all right, I'm about to quit this job. If you quit doing it, it shuts the whole thing down.
yeah,
So I just didn't know how to transition out of a company that I started. And that was a valuable lesson as well. And then also in M&A. I'm in the middle of this right now. So it's always constant learning. But I think that I mean, in hindsight, we should have took this instead of talking to Dante. We should have took this out to California and tried to make it work out, try to sell it out there, do something with it out there. We just didn't know
We
what
didn't
to
know how to
do.
use
So now there's
money.
so many options.
Like we got money
Yeah.
from your father, which was dope, but we
Yeah.
smoked that money.
We definitely got 10,000 from my dad. He was our only investor, and it definitely helped us
And
to
it
get
helped us,
all
but
that
we didn't even know how to spend that money. Like we didn't know we was buying printers
We paid,
and
yeah, we
shit.
bought a whole bunch of promo stuff, paid
Yeah.
the lawyers to set it up, because back then it wasn't no even easy way to set up a business online like it is now, like a legal
Right.
Zoom or nothing like that. We had to
Right.
pay real lawyers to go and set things up for us. Luckily, Brandon had lawyers in his family, or
Right.
we wouldn't even have known how to trademark, register a business. I mean, it was just so different. There's everything today is automated. So you guys have no excuse
None.
because everything is handed to you.
No
We had to
excuse.
get it out the mud. Real mud.
The Columbus,
Figure it out.
Ohio mud. The mud, not
Yes.
this Floridian sand
Mud.
mud. So
Yes.
so
Yes.
yeah, so just to end it off, like I said, go to the comments, let us know if you appreciated the Urban Star. I think we would appreciate that to this day. Just that,
Yeah.
because so getting to the point, when I shut it down, that's when I first started feeling that, like, oh, people were going to this site. Because once I shut it down, people started hitting me up like, yo, where's the Urban Star? I don't know what to do this week. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know y'all was coming. Like,
Yeah.
but if I
Yeah.
looked at the views and you can look at the time, people would come to the site. They would spend about 45 seconds to like a minute and a half on the site. Which means, like in hindsight, at the time, I didn't know about all this stuff. But in hindsight, what it meant was they was coming to, I designed the site like a tool. You come to the site, get what you need, and leave. I didn't design it to
Yeah.
keep you there. Like the photos page kept people
Yeah.
there, but everything else, they would come, see what's going on for the day, and they would leave. So that's like 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So I was taking that as a diss. Like, oh, I'm not keeping them on the site long enough. But really what they were
Yeah.
doing, they were just like quickly using the site and then leaving. And it was actually a good
It was like
thing
a
from a
tool.
user experience perspective. Like
Yeah.
other terms that didn't exist then. User experience, user interface, like all of that stuff wasn't really a thing. So to lead me into the future, I have and I haven't announced this. This is the first announcement of it, but it's launching in August. I have that I designed and curated a user experience Master of Science degree program launching August 26th. It's all online program, a year-long program. You can finish it in a year. You'll get your Master of Science in User Experience Design completely online. You can do it from anywhere in the world.
Wow.
And I've been asking for this program for about 8 years. So
Wow.
for a long time, and they finally,
That's big.
I would give it to Lynn University. They finally was like, yeah, you can do it. And
That's big.
it's launching.
That's big.
So, and I just made full professor. So this is like us, like this is where we started with. We didn't know what we were doing, but all this stuff kind of like is culminating to you being in Ghana doing big things. Like I'm just in this space still trying to be creative. Like I don't want to make any dollars not being creative. Like that's my thing. So yeah, go in the comments, let us know if you have any UrbanStarr stories, any things you want to reminisce about. And then if you want to inquire about this user experience Masters of Science program, let me know. All right, Dawn, I appreciate your time. I know your time is valuable.
There we go, confetti.
There you go. I can't get it. But that's the deal. So if there's nothing else I think I'm supposed to say at the end of these things, like subscribe. I think in the future, I will talk about this platform in the future. It don't work when you, oh, there you go. Subscribe, comment, all that good stuff if you want, like it, I guess.
Share.
Share. And until next time, peace. There we go. Got the balloon.